The mission of how I started podcasting and started Special Chronicles is giving respect and voice to those of us with special needs. I became an athlete leader of Special Olympics Illinois, and when I recorded the audio of the speeches that I was given and putting those up as podcasts, I soon received messages of encouragement, and I learned that it was a powerful platform and really helping to make a difference in people's lives. 12 years ago, I didn't expect that anybody would want to even listen to me. We have over 42,316 listeners per month. It's a humbling experience. I'm really grateful to make a difference in other people's lives. Special Olympics, Northern California athlete and poet Amanda Harrinauth. Should ask how to pronounce her name, but we'll ask her when we bring on the show. Amanda stops by the podcast to talk about poetry and her impactful Special Olympic story. Episode 421 of the Special Chronicles podcast starts right now on specialchronicles.com.
This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
Podcasting since 2008. This is the show where we're broadcasting disability stories from an insider's perspective, and we are giving a voice to people with special needs. This is your weekly guide to find and joy, acceptance, and inclusion.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome back to the Special Chronicles Show. My name is Daniel, founder of Special Chronicles and the Southern Shriver International Global Messenger with Special Olympics. So excited to be back behind the mic as I take a sip of coffee in my StreamYard coffee mug. Let's go have coffee. Well, we're calling this on Saturday morning, the 10th of April, 2021. But you guys are going to hear this live in the evening on Monday. But again, you could be listening to this podcast at any time. Again, I just want to quickly remind you, if you want to do a easy live stream, easy professional live stream like we are doing at Special Chronicles, you can use our referral link, specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. The link will be in the show notes description below. Specialchronicles.com/StreamYard, and you can, with our referral link, you can get $10 in credit. And also just quick reminder that if you make a $250 at the $250 gift level to this podcast by making a gift of $250 at specialchronicles.com/give or text give to 50. That's text give to 50 to 833-953-2598. And Tim Shriver will send you a free autographed copy of his new book, The Call to Unite: Voices of Hope and Awakening. Once again, at the $250 gift level, specialchronicles.com/give. Is where you can go to make a $250 gift, and it really helps to keep me broadcasting here on specialchronicles.com. So please, thank you, and remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Specialchronicles.com is where you can go to follow us on the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter. Subscribe to all the podcasts, and remember to rate and review and subscribe and follow. Do what you do with these podcasts, specialchronicles.com. And with that, excited to welcome. You saw the little, if you're watching the video, you saw the graphic, or if you listen to the podcast, you may have seen it in the description below. Excited to welcome this week's guest on the program, and that is Amanda is a Special Olympics Northern California athlete and a poet, and also diagnosed with a few different disabilities that we'll get to in her introduction, but one of them being autism. And as this is the beginning of April, which is Autism Awareness Month, so that's what we're celebrating this week on this episode of the Special Chronicles Show. So with all of that introduction, please put your hands. Hold on, I forgot which. Okay, I hope I remember which audio clip is which. I don't have my little cheat sheet in front of me. So with that, please put your hands. There we go. I found the right button. Okay. What I need to do is like tape this little cheat sheet to the wall so I actually know what I'm doing. Or I don't know. We'll figure that out later. With that, please put your hands together as let me put my coffee down so I can so I can have the guests join the show. Please put your hands together as we welcome Special Olympics Northern California athlete and poet Amanda to the Special Chronicles Show. Welcome to Special Chronicles, Amanda.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Super exciting.
Yeah, and I think I first got connected with you. I wasn't part of this Zoom thing that you did, but our good friend Jason from Special Olympics Maryland had you on some Zoom thing.
Yeah. It was a Zoomcast, so I got to come to the Zoomcast event, and I got to read some poetry, and so I randomly came across Jason when I was just joining all these groups on Facebook for the Special Olympics, and then I saw one for athlete leaders.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me join this page and see what happens. And I saw that, Special Olympics Maryland, posted quite a bit. And I saw Jason's post they were doing something for the holidays, and they encouraged anybody who was part of this group to come join. And I said, you know what? This is going to be really random and exciting at the same time, but I'm going to go to this meeting.
Yeah.
And,
awesome. Yeah. I don't know if this is the group that you we've gone to, but I know we have a Special Olympics North America athlete leadership page. Is that the one that you're on for North America region? Okay, awesome. So that I gave a little bit of an introduction at the top of the program for you, but why don't you, any new listeners, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us about the disabilities that you were diagnosed with, and yeah.
Sure. So my name is Amanda Harrinauth. As Daniel said, I am a Special Olympics athlete and global ambassador for Northern California. I was diagnosed with retinopathy of prematurity, aka a very nice vision impairment. And on top of vision impairment, I also have autism and a whole host of other conditions and things like that. But right now, these are the things that we are going to go ahead and focus on, because if I mentioned everything else that was uniquely wrong with me, we would be here all day.
Well, and one of the we have one mission at Special Chronicles, which is giving respect and voice to those of us with special needs or disabilities. But I guess we have a lot of purposes that our listeners come to Special Chronicles to hear our stories, and one of those purposes is to hear about our accomplishments and to hear about our joys, and the challenges or disabilities or differences that we have, that you and me and so many others Special Olympics athletes have, is a part of our story, but it's just one small part of the story. And so a lot of the focus of the stories and the podcasts that we tell here on Special Chronicles, and this program is about all accomplishments. So with that, tell us about a little bit about your early years, and as I mentioned at the top of the program today, that it's April is Autism Awareness Month. I think April 2nd was World Autism Day, but April is Autism Awareness Month. And
it's also Poetry Month, my friend.
Awesome. Yeah. And so with that, tell us about your early years and about some of the challenges that you have and joys and accomplishments.
Sure. So growing up for me, it was relatively difficult growing up vision impaired. I had really a fear of school, really for two reasons. The first reason being physically, I felt I was unable to get around by myself. I would see several, my friends zooming by. Let me go to this class. Let me go to this cafeteria. Let me go do this thing. And I'm struggling to get around because that's how impaired my vision was growing up. So that was number one. And the other thing that really honestly scared me in my early years was not knowing that I was mildly autistic. And with having some learning differences, it makes it, even in special education, which I was being in special education, it makes it more challenging to really enjoy or focus therefore on the school experience. So I won't go ahead and say that, oh my gosh, I hated growing up. That's actually not true. I've been fortunate to be able to have traveled several places growing up. So I wouldn't say for like the first 5, 6, 7 years of my life, my birthday's in November. So I would spend my birthday in Hawaii with my parents and my sister, and then for sister's days in April, we would be in Disneyland. So in spite of how hard it was academically, I grew up, being able to travel. Europe was another place that I got to experience. Mexico was another place I got to experience, which is, really interesting growing up vision impaired. And, you're walking around, different places in Mexico, and in some cases things aren't paved, like streets aren't paved, so you accidentally go ahead and take a short little tumble down the stairs or on an accident. But I've always felt that God has always had a purpose for my life. So really just figuring out what that was, even though the academic part of it would be hard and the socialization part of it would be hard, knowing that he has a divine plan and purpose for all of us, it really is just finding out really what that is. And once you find out, when he reveals what that is, you go ahead and you lean into your gifts and your talents for to make you the best that you can possibly be. For me, I've always had a strong, not necessarily background in public speaking, but it's always been one of my strengths. So it's always been something that I wanted to do, just not in a classroom or an academic setting. Just like what we're doing now. I'm in my joy right now, just being on this podcast.
Awesome. A couple brief things that I want to mention, kind of based on your story and the early years, because as this part of the program is Act 1, personal and special respect story, and one of the things you mentioned was your struggles in school, and just like you, I had a lot of I wouldn't say that I hated my youth, but so I wouldn't say that, but I would say especially in high school was a really difficult, challenging time. And I mean, some people might not see that, but I also at the same time, I think some people could maybe see that. I know particularly my family could see that. And I think, and I don't know your thoughts about this, but I think a lot of the people probably I mean, we both went to two different high schools, but still, I think a lot of maybe the people our age, people that we went to school with that didn't have the differences, the disabilities, the challenges that we had, and we have two different disabilities, but probably don't fully understand all of the difficulties and challenges that people like you and me deal with.
Yeah, exactly. I found a lot of support, when I was in high school, and there were, no shortage of kids who would help me get to where I needed to be around campus, which was really great because my sister and I, we did not attend the same school. We're only 19 months apart, but she went to a private school and I, had to remain in public school for, obvious reasons. But I think that when you have people around you who have a heart of compassion, it makes it much easier versus people who go ahead and object to everything that you do. What I experienced throughout my time in special education is that there would be specific teachers for the severely handicapped class that didn't even want to be there. You could just tell there were that didn't want to be there. For them, it was all about just whatever the benefit of teaching special ed was, which I believe was just about the money part of it. But in terms of them actually loving what they did and having compassion for this very unique population, I don't know about you, but I didn't see much of that.
Yeah. So we could spend probably an entire hour of this program talking about just that, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to something else that you also said in talking about your early years, and that is your faith in God, and also a part of my part, and I think you hold the most recent, the second guest appearance that Special Olympics chairman and Unite founder Tim Shriver was on this podcast a few episodes ago. I forgot the exact episode number, but it's featured now on the top. If you just go to our homepage, specialchronicles.com, you can find that Tim's episode. You can listen or watch that there. It's linked at the top of the site, specialchronicles.com. But anyway, that's something I also kind of Tim also mentioned as well. But there's an artist, and I don't know if you've heard of Matthew West. He's a pretty, let me see if I can pull it up on, let me see if it, well, wait. Let me just add it on the bank here. And we'll see if you, go to specialchronicles.com/Matthew West podcast. You can hear him on this program. I don't know have you heard of Matthew West? He's a pretty popular Christian single songwriter.
Okay, I'll definitely check him out. Thanks.
Yeah. So, I'm only bringing him up because kind of he talks about stories and faith as well. Specialchronicles.com/Matthew West podcast. as well. I only bring that up because So, anyways, and I guess poetry and music kind of relate to each other, maybe, sort of, kind of. Anyway,
that's a whole nother that's a whole other conversation that we'll have to have.
yeah.
Definitely, they definitely interconnect, and,
Well, and we'll get into a little bit more of your in the second act, more about your story with poetry, and then in the third to final act of this episode, we'll get to your published poetry. But with that, and speaking of poetry, I don't know if you've heard of Emily Dickinson. If you've heard of that famous poet, there's a new show on Apple TV Plus that's on Apple TV that's called Dickinson, and it's about her as a growing up, kind of before she was a famous poet. It's a yeah. I don't know if you heard of that. Anyways, let's move on. And is there anything else about you mentioned about a little bit of the challenges that you had in your early years? Can you maybe talk to us a little bit about some of the joys and accomplishments that you had?
Yeah.
In your early years.
Yeah, so I mentioned I mentioned it briefly. Getting to travel, getting to go and see these wonderful, like these wonderful countries. I've had the opportunity to visit places like Australia and walk on the a section of the Sydney Harbour Bridge where you're just experiencing the sights and the sounds, and sitting on the steps of the Sydney Opera House, which in many cases your average Joe doesn't get to do. Also going to Europe at the age of 11 and visiting famous landmarks such as the Louvre. And I remember waiting in line to see the Mona Lisa. At the age of 11, I was a little irritated because I wanted to know why people were making such a big deal about this this painting, and I wanted to know why the line was so long. Like, why are these people like gawking over this painting? And here I am at the age of 11, and I wasn't really impressed. But looking back at it now, especially in the time of this pandemic, being able to travel back to periods of your life, even if it is in your mind, or being able to go ahead and capture that experience in photographs is, really a wonderful experience. And it really is something to be able to go ahead and travel and be able to experience the world through a certain lens, even if that lens is clouded by vision impairment, or even if that lens is clouded by being on the autism spectrum. These were still things that I got to do, and they're in my heart and my soul, and I write about my experiences poetically. Getting to visit these locations. It's been brilliant, and I think one of my greatest joys in life was back in 2018. Actually, I was visiting Disney World. It was my first time going to Disney World, and I had a really bad cold for the duration of the trip, but just having that joy of pre-pandemic. I love the Disney princesses, so during this time we got to go and mingle with the characters, and we actually got to go give hugs, and I was very excited for that. That was a huge joy in my life. I was like a kid in a candy store, and just it was one of the joys, and definitely one of the things that I reflect on now during this pandemic, because I had, so much fun experiencing that. And not to mention, being vision impaired, everywhere you go, you tell them you have special needs, especially around the park, they make you feel just like a princess. It's really cool. I got to march in the princess procession with Ariel. That was a lot of fun. I didn't know that they were going to ask me to do it. So that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, we've got just a few minutes left before we have to take our first sponsor break. But wanted to just share. I love that what you shared about not letting the challenges, not letting the disabilities that doctors that you were diagnosed with stop you from seeing the world, from seeing the globe, and achieving the accomplishments that you have. And so that's I love hearing stories about that, because I know that I can relate to of not letting seeing the globe, seeing all these different accomplishments, not letting the disabilities, not letting the challenges that I have. And same thing with you and all the other stories of people being featured on this program. So with that, we got 5 minutes before we have to take a short break. So in just a few short moments, and if we need to continue this after the break, we can, but share with us briefly in just like 2 to 3 brief minutes, how did you get started participating as a Special Olympics athlete in Northern California and where in Northern California? I was born in Southern California, in Long Beach, California, but where in Northern California are you located? I mean, you don't have to give the exact location, but just kind of the general area. And then how did you get started with participating as a Special Olympics athlete in Northern California?
Sure. Which is, a really good segue when I was actually talking about Disney World, because I was going through quickly just some health issues with my eyesight, and that required me to go ahead and have surgery. So as I was recuperating from the visual procedure that I was having, my mom suggested that I go ahead and join the Special Olympics after finding out about a local track meet that we attended at one of the local high schools. So I filled out the application for the Special Olympics. One of the reasons being that I told myself and God that I was going to be the one up there one day reciting the Special Olympics oath. That was the one thing that got me motivated to really do it. So I signed up. I was ready just in time for the bowling season, and ended up placing second in my division. So I ended up getting a silver medal for bowling, and then just, really went from there. And then about a year or so later, I ended up getting to, at the bowling competition, I ended up getting to recite the Special Olympics oath at regionals. So that was really exciting. And the rest of my work is in being a global ambassador. I've gotten to speak at UC Berkeley and gotten to do some work with Stanford Medical School as well. So it's
awesome.
Been wonderful.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to go in just a few quick moments, take a brief sponsor break, because if it wasn't for our partners and sponsors and supporters, we wouldn't be able to do get behind the microphone and bring you these podcasts and bring you these stories. But when we come back from the break, we'll hear more from our guest on the Special Chronicles program today is Amanda. I should have asked how to pronounce your name, but I guess we'll do that when we come back from the break. Anyways, we'll get to how Amanda got started in poetry, and have also share a few of her favorite poems with us, and a little bit more about being a published poet, featured in the Ability magazine and on National Public Radio and PBS, and some final messages at the end of the program. So all that and much more is coming up briefly after a short break. I want to also just mention briefly before we do take that break that at the $250 gift level, if you make a $250 gift to this podcast, you can at the $250 gift level at specialchronicles.com/give or text give 250 to 833-953-2598. Once again, text give 250 to 833-953-2598. And Tim Shriver will send you a free autographed copy of his new book, The Call to Unite, Voices of Hope and an Awakening. Once again, at the $250 gift level to this podcast, Special Chronicles, at specialchronicles.com/give. And we thank you for your generous support. It really helps to keep these programs going. And with that, we will go ahead and take a brief break. You're listening to the Special Chronicles Show right here on specialchronicles.com. Augusta is Special Olympics athlete and poet Amanda. We'll be right back after a quick break. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's
Hi, my name is Lisa Noble, and I'm a ComEd Energy Force Ambassador and an athlete with Special Olympics Illinois.
Hi, my name is Daniel Smrokowski, and I also am a ComEd Energy Force Ambassador and founder of a company called Special Chronicles.
The ComEd Energy Force program is a program that hires people with disabilities to teach the public how to save energy and money.
It's the country's first energy efficiency program of its kind.
Saving energy is especially important while everyone is at home due to COVID-19. We're using more electricity than ever before. Just think about how many more times you are opening the refrigerator door these days.
And while the economy is stressed, it's more critical than ever to save money where we can. Following these tips can save energy and money in this time of COVID-19.
Wash your clothes in cold water and use the dryer sparingly.
Your dryer can take up to 7 times more energy than the washer.
Turn off and unplug any electrical devices or power strips you are not using.
Electrical devices can continue to zap power even when turned off if they're still plugged in. We call them vampire devices.
Use LED bulbs.
They use 25% less energy than incandescent bulbs and last up to 25 times longer, saving you lots of money over time.
Keep your refrigerator between 35 and 38 degrees.
And be sure to use Energy Star appliances.
And last but not least, check out ComEd.com/home savings for more tips and rebates.
Lisa and I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to us today.
Remember, we are all in this together.
Stay healthy.
And stay safe.
Bye.
COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread throughout the world. There are a few ways to help lower the spread of this respiratory disease. Wash your hands. Avoid touching your face, including mouth, nose, and eyes. Cover your coughs and sneezes. Monitor your symptoms and consult with your doctor. Stay at home and away from other sick people except for medical care. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Thank you.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference. Our demands are
equality,
dignity,
and the recognition of our
shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution is inclusion. Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
You're listening to the Special Chronicles Show right here on specialchronicles.com. Once again, we'd like to remind you that at the $250 gift, love at the I wasn't trying to do a joke there, but yeah, there we go. Anyways, at the $250 gift level to this podcast, Special Chronicles, specialchronicles.com/give or text give to 50 to 833-953-2598. Then Tim Shriver will send you a free autographed copy of his new book, The Call to Unite, Voices of Hope and Awakening. Once again, if you make a $250 gift at the $250 gift level to this podcast, Special Chronicles, Tim Shriver will send you a free autographed copy of his new book, The Call to Unite, Voices of Hope and Awakening. And once again, to make the $250 gift, simply just go to specialchronicles.com/give, specialchronicles.com/give, or grab your phone and text give 250 to 833-953-2598. That's text give 250 to 833-953-2598, or just go to specialchronicles.com/give and make the $250 gift to this podcast, and you can join and applaud in for our audience. But anyway, and you can help to make this program more possible. You can make this program possible for more listeners to hear and more stories like Amanda's to be heard on this program. And with that, our guest once again on the Special Chronicles program is Amanda, Special Olympics Northern California athlete and poet. Welcome back to the Special Chronicles Show, Amanda. After our virtual audience, so applause for you, of course. Oh, she's muted. I should unmute her. I should unmute you. Anyway, our vote. You probably didn't know that we are pre-recording this, and yet even with pre-recording this, we still have a virtual audience who's applauding for you.
Yay!
So, I mean, yeah, because I muted you, it was a little delayed. Once again, after 13 years, I still know what I'm doing. We'll just leave it at that. Anyways, the first act of this program was about your story, but now let's get into how you got started writing poetry.
Okay. Yeah. It's really great. The things that poetry has actually been able to teach me. So I don't know if many of your listeners would know this, but I am actually a self-taught poet. So you mentioned earlier a show about Emily Dickinson.
Yeah.
And I've heard her name. And I saw an episode of one of the cartoons I used to watch that referenced Emily Dickinson, but I've never read any of her work. And that is really interesting because it's that same thing with Shakespeare. If it wasn't like being mentioned on a favorite TV program that I watched or something, I really had no exposure to it. So my experience, my relationship to poetry is different than most because I really had to step into my own power with this poetry and really, give myself no constraints. I didn't even know there were different types of poetry that could actually be written. And so it's all been like an experience to me, but I am in no way, shape, or form an expert.
Mhm.
You could probably go to any other poet in this world and call them an expert, but I just won't be one of them. I just love poetry. I'm passionate about this art form, and I just love it so much in terms of expressing, me being able to go ahead and tell my story, and me being able to go ahead and reflect that and tell, in some cases, the stories of others. So it it poetry to me is such a heart space. It gives me a place to explore and love and just be in the moment. And I'm going to shut up now and let you say something.
Well, I love that you say that, and even though I'm not exactly a poet, I've probably tried it in my younger years, but not really. But I guess with a bachelor's degree in journalism, so like as a journalist and a columnist, I'm better with that type of writing. But yeah, it's amazing whether it's poetry like you just explained, or whether you're a columnist or a journalist or a novelist, or I guess just any in the out. It's amazing the creativity and the freedom that you have to share your story in different forms of media.
Absolutely.
And I would consider poetry a form of media, just like this podcast is a form of media. Well, that's probably obvious, but maybe some people might not consider poetry or column, like writing a newspaper column or a blog or a newspaper column or a poem. Some people might not really consider that a form of media, but I consider it a form of media because it's whether you are writing a poem or a column or doing a podcast or a blog. All of these are different forms of media, forms of expressing yourself, forms of sharing your story. And yeah, or like I know some people might be good at drawing a cartoon or a comic.
Right.
So with that, tell us about some of your poems, and in telling us about some of your poems, share, just for the sake of time, because I'm keeping an eye on the time, just share with us just one or two of your favorite poems in telling us about your favorite poems.
Yeah. So I have several different poems that I absolutely love. I'll say that all of my poems are special only because my friends have told me. But one of the poems that I really, really resonate with is a poem I wrote last year called Several Lives. And this was right after a conversation that I had with a good friend of mine. And she said, don't you know, based on your disabilities, that you've technically lived several lives? You've technically had to cheat death a couple of times. So therefore, you're getting a shot at their life. So therefore, you've lived several. And when she spoke that I've lived several lives, I wrote a poem called Several Lives. And this is what I'm going to do, my friend. If you invite me back, if you like me, the next time I'm on there, I'll read that poem.
Which poem is that?
It's called Several Lives. Has not officially been published yet. But Yeah, but because I'm having so much fun with you, if you have me on a second time, I'll read several lives.
Did you want to share with us an exclusive reading of that poem now?
I really have my heart set on this poem right here, actually called 67. It's one of my favorite poems. I think it has so much power and so much emphasis, and I think it's right now something that needs to be heard, and I really do believe that it aligns with the message of not only your podcast, but the Special Olympics as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So let's go ahead and read once again. This is this is what's the name of the poem?
The poem is called 67.
This is called 67, a poem by Amanda. How do you pronounce your last name? Let's find 45 minutes into this program. Finally asking you, but yeah,
Harrinauth.
Harrinauth. Okay. Once again, this is 67, a poem by Amanda Harrinauth, our guest on the Special Chronicles program right here on specialchronicles.com. And here's the poem 67 by Amanda at PodmanDan on Facebook.
67. Can a number dictate who I will be? The things I will accomplish? 67 is the number autism assigned me. What does it mean? I believe it's just a number. It can't tell me who I am. It can't tell me how to love. It can't stop me from making my plans. It can't stop me from writing my name in the sand. 67, it's just a number, or so I'm told. Release negative stereotypes about it that it currently holds. 67, can you hear me? Stop talking back. I may not pass every test, but I'll give it my best shot. 67, I'll make it known. You can try all you want, but I refuse to have you define my life in such a grim way. 67, I'll rise above with those around me who show me love and compassion. 67, you can no longer claim who I am supposed to be. 67, you may have challenged me intellectually, but that has nothing to do with who I was called to be. Thank you.
Awesome. And that is all of our podcast friends, listeners, applauding for you. I know we can't, as this is a podcast, you can't see all of our listeners, you can't see our podcast friends, but they will just imagine them as I play that song. Imagine all of them with their earbuds or their car speakers or Bluetooth speakers listening to you right now. If they're watching this on YouTube and they're watching this on the TV, then imagine them, applauding. Anyways, we've got just a little bit of time left. The title of this episode is I Am Proud to Be Me, which I kind of took that title of this episode of the program from one of the poems as I was doing as I always do, some background research on our guests and looking on your website. I believe that's one of the poems that you wrote. And we will definitely have to have you on again to share that. What's that poem that you said you new poem that you wanted to share?
Oh yeah, no, definitely Several Lives. Yeah, it's a good one.
Several lives. So we will have to, and you may have to remind my producer. You have my producer's email, right?
I do.
And so you will have to remind my producer, and we'll have to have you back on to share that new poem, Several Lives. But for the sake of time, I mean, we have time for just one more poem for you to share. And I did make you full screen, so I don't know if you wanted to like look at the camera when you read this next poem, just because I made you full screen. But we have time one more poem, and I don't know if you can take a suggestion. Take a request from the host of this program. But is that okay if you take a request from the host?
Sure.
And that is the title of this episode of the Special Chronicles program is I Am Proud to Be Me. And so kind of share, I guess, share with us that poem, I Am Proud to Be Me.
Yeah.
So once again, this is this next final poem that you will hear on the Special Chronicles program today is I Am Proud to Be Me by Amanda Harrinauth. What? Harrinauth. Right here on specialchronicles.com. And here is one final poem by Amanda. I Am Proud to Be Me.
Perfect. Thanks, Daniel. Proud to be. I'm proud to be unique. I'm proud to be beautiful. I'm proud to be kind. I'm proud to be intelligent. I'm proud to be creative. I'm proud to be funny. I'm proud to be honest. I'm proud to be clever. I'm proud to be hydrocephalic. I'm proud to be legally blind. I am proud to be autistic. And, oh yeah, I'm proud to be me. Thank you.
Once again, just imagine all podcast listener friends applauding for you right now. So awesome. Thank you for sharing those poems, and we'll have to have you on again to share that new poem, Several Lives. But once again, that poem that you just read was I Am Proud to Be Me. And you can find more poems. We'll get to your plugs in just a little bit. But briefly share with us, we only have just a little bit of time left. But tell us about being featured in Ability magazine. I believe I heard of that. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with the magazine. But tell us about being a published poet and being featured in Ability magazine and featured on National Public Radio and on PBS.
Yeah, so National Public Radio actually came along about 3 years ago, but I had just recently done the interview last year. And I was doing some self-promotion for this first poetry collection that I had written, Legally Blind, Letters from Amanda. And I randomly connected with one of the show hosts for Insight Radio. And I was telling her about my poems, told her that I would love to be on her program. So I, got to do that last year. It was a lot of fun because unfortunately during the pandemic, we couldn't be in studio. So I was actually sitting in my bedroom while I was recording this interview, but it was still such a dream come true. With Ability magazine, that was literally just I do a lot of spontaneous marketing. And what I mean by that is I will randomly email people to see if they'll feature my work. So Ability magazine, as I was doing my research, I found out that it was a well-respected magazine, and I remembered that one of my favorite performance artist who is Clay Aiken, who was a former special education teacher. He had been on the cover of Ability magazine. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up being published in the digital poem, or the digital poem, excuse me, the digital magazine for my poem called I Am Not. So that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope one day to be featured either in Ability magazine or on National Public Radio or on PBS.
Oh, you definitely will. You definitely will be.
All right, awesome. And if you have any connections with National Public Radio and PBS, maybe off air, you can share that with me and share that with my producer as well. But tell us just briefly about PBS. And we've got just a little bit of time left, so just like in 30 seconds. What was
Sure.
PBS?
This was actually an opportunity through the Special Olympics for PBS American Portrait. And they were like, well, we're looking for somebody within the Special Olympics to go ahead and talk about, was it like the disability rights movement or something?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, do you want to be part of this American Portrait piece? So I was like, yeah, absolutely. But I found the first interview that I did. I have not found the other compilation that I was supposedly that I was supposed to be a part of. I haven't found it. So if you find it because you're awesome, let me know.
On PBS. Okay, yeah. So we'll put that plea out to our listeners. If you find that PBS clip of Amanda, then just share that with us. Feedback at specialchronicles.com, or you can email my producer at specialchronicles.com, and we can forward that on to Amanda. Anyways, what's a lesson that you have learned, or what's one message that you share with the media that you speak to, including all podcast listeners of Special Chronicles, and that you shared on National Public Radio and on PBS, as well as a lesson that you learned by working with your clients?
Yeah. Definitely be strong. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. And one of my favorite messages is really, it's going to sound a little, I guess, mean, but I like it. And I see it like everywhere I go. Prove them wrong. To me, just briefly, that means exactly that. Prove your naysayers wrong, because it feels so good when you accomplish something that somebody told you you can't do. And that is really the basis for people with special needs in general. I said briefly about a year ago when I was doing some prep work for lobbying back in last April, I said, it was actually March for a women's conference. And I said, we are rebels. People with special needs are rebels because we go ahead and defy everything that medical teams and certain teachers say about us. So prove them wrong.
Awesome.
And do it with a smile.
Awesome. I love that what you said about prove them wrong, and that those of us people with disabilities are rebels. It's never something that I thought of, but yeah, it's a unique. I should say it's a unique way to look at it. In a way that I usually end all of my conversations, and it was ever since the Abu Dhabi World Games for Special Olympics and the Abu Dhabi Daily Show that I co-hosted on SpecialOlympics.org, which was a video podcast series that I co-hosted on there. Well, and a question that I always end with is, what does inclusion mean to you? So I'm going to ask you the same thing. What does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion means to me being treated just like anybody else. Being treated as if you belong, because you do. We all belong. We all belong in this world together to coexist. No one person is better than the next, regardless of whether they have a disability, regardless of whether they are Black versus white. It doesn't matter. We are all in this together, just kind of like the tagline that they've been giving for, in some cases, the stay-at-home order for the pandemic. We're all in this together. And that has not changed. We are all in this together because we're all the same, because we possess a human heart.
Awesome. And any plugs on social media and website for you personally, and like how people can connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, Amanda Harrinauth Poet, and you'll be able to catch up with me there. I go ahead and I repost videos and write my own poetry on there. And also PodmanDan.com. That is my website. And again, there's going to be some cool videos on there, some tips, some various links you guys can look for, access. I'm currently in the market for looking for clients to coach. I coach those with autism, Down syndrome, special needs in general, them and their families, to help them have one of the best, most authentic lives possible. So
awesome. So we'll put links in the show notes if you guys go to specialchronicles.com/poet Mandy podcast. That's specialchronicles.com/POETMANDYPODCAST. Once again, at specialchronicles.com/poet Mandy podcast is where you can find the show notes for this episode. And you can find links to connect with Amanda on Facebook and YouTube, and her website, PodmanDan.com, will also be linked in the show notes. So that is, we'd like to just briefly mention that. And before we get to the final plugs, I want to just briefly mention that you can follow me at PodmanDan, PodmanDan, at PodmanDan, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and also SpecialChronicles.com/show is the podcast page for this program. And SpecialChronicles.com is where you can go to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, email, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to all our podcasts, and remember to do what you do with these things. Subscribe, rate, review, all that. With that, any final thoughts, Amanda, on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles program that you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, just I've had so much fun here today. It was something that I was definitely anticipating, and just to our the listeners, be strong. We can do it. We with special needs are going to be the ones who change the world.
Absolutely. Great words to end on. Once again, it's been a joy having you on, Amanda. We'll have to have you on again, and hopefully one of these days, when it's safe to travel and do live events, we'll have to bring back. It's popular when we do a live audience podcast on location, but we'll have to bring back. I created a new graphic for it, but we'll have to bring back our Special Chronicles live podcast tour. We hopefully can go on tour to different cities across the country, and maybe we'll hopefully make it out to Northern California. Hopefully, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I've talked with my team about that, but it's been a joy having you on, and hopefully we can have you on again in the future to share that new poem that you wrote and more in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Once again, I'll remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Whoa, hold on. Wait. There we go. Yes. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. SpecialChronicles.com is where you can go. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Rate, review, follow, subscribe. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to our newsletter, SpecialChronicles.com. All the links to subscribe to our podcasts and newsletter and videos and YouTube and everything that you can find on Special specialchronicles.com. And remember to also donate specialchronicles.com/give. And remember to make that $250 gift level to this podcast, Special Chronicles, specialchronicles.com/give, or text give to 50 to 833-953-2598. Once again, if you make at the $250 gift level to Special Chronicles to this podcast, Tim Shriver will send you a free autographed copy of his new book, The Call to Unite, Voices of Hope and Awakening. Once again, make that $250 gift at specialchronicles.com/give, or text give 250 to 833-953-2598. And you can keep this podcast, keep me broadcasting on specialchronicles.com. It's been a joy having you on, Amanda, and thanks again for coming on the podcast. And until next week, everyone, stay tuned, because coming up next week, we will have 2.5 months of all new episodes of our ComEd Energy Force podcast series. Once again, ComEd Energy Force program is the country's first energy efficiency education program taught by people with disabilities. The ComEd Energy Force is celebrating the 10th anniversary this year, and we are having 11 new episodes. We have 2.5 months of new episodes of a ComEd Energy Force series, so stay tuned. We've got tons of weekly content, new content coming to you guys, coming to all of you, to your earbuds in the next 2.5 months. So stay remember to stay subscribed, keep following us, and tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbors, tell your coworkers, tell your teachers, tell all of your family and friends about this program and all the podcasts on the Special Chronicles Network. We'll be back next week, and until I talk to you next week, this has been Daniel, founder of Special Chronicles and a Special Olympics Southern Shriver International Global Messenger. We'll see you next week right here on the Special Chronicles program on specialchronicles.com. We'll see you next. Until next week, remember, choose to include
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.